Alright, so here's the deal. So I don't think there's anyone left on this planet who isn't affected by this virus thing. And Dad and I are no different. We're kind of locked down right now and trying not to get together and spread this thing. So that means that we are not working on our car. But I figure since everybody's kind of bored and sitting at home, I really hate to just not make any videos at all. So we're going to try something a little different today. We're going to do some woodworking. And I have no idea how to make woodworking videos, so I'm sure this is going to suck, but I'll try and make it entertaining. So I'm going to be showing off a couple of things here. I'm going to show you some of my favorite tools, actually my number one favorite tool here in just a minute. We've also got some cheap Baltic birch plywood from Menards. This is my first time working with it, so I'm going to see if that's worth the money or if it's any good. Kind of excited to give it a shot. So basically I'm trying to organize the shop here in the free time. This is my shop, and I've got a whole new space off to the side here that doesn't have anything in it. So this is a blank slate, and the first project I've got is this. Let's check it out. I've got some plans for this area above the door here, and you can see here I've actually got speaker wire coming out there. So the idea is to move my stereo in here to a shelf that mounts above the top of this doorway. So I'm going to make kind of a long, skinny shelf for the stereo up there. And then I'm also going to try and put all my cordless tool battery chargers up there. All the books and stuff that I have will all fit up on top of there. So that'll keep everything nice and out of the way. So hey, well, let's get started. All right, so this is pretty much my favorite woodworking tool of all time here. I do not have room in here for a table saw. So instead of a table saw, I bought this Festool track saw, and this thing is awesome. Very expensive tool, but totally worth it. Totally makes it possible to do very precise work without a table saw. And yeah, it's really great. So you'll see me using that extensively today. Alright, so next up we set this thing up for cross-cutting. Got these rail dogs that snap right into the table here. And then the rail goes right across like so. So now you know your rail is square relative to all the other holes on this grid. So using other little dogs, I can make some really accurate cross cuts for the rest of this piece. Alright, so real quick, I did decide to make this a little easier to put together. I put some little rabbets on the corners of my end pieces here. There's a nice up close and personal. And I did use the track saw to kind of cut the shoulder. But if you know anything about me and woodworking, it's that I love my old school tools. So this was the perfect excuse to bust out my ancient rabbet plane. So basically, I cut the shoulder using the saw, and then I took out the rest of the material with the rabbet plane. All right, so I got everything cut to length, all the rabbets done. This thing is ready to go together. Now, I'm sure all the elite woodworkers would probably tell me this is not the greatest joinery, and they're probably right, but I am basically just gonna edge glue everything and snap some 1.25" brads in to hold this thing together. So it should probably be noted too that I've never actually had any problem with edge glued cabinets. So there is that. Let's go. So I think I mentioned earlier this being almost like a review for this Menards Baltic birch plywood. So I thought I'd show you kind of some of the reasons why I actually really am liking this stuff. It's a little more expensive than the regular stuff. I think this is probably $70 a sheet. Don't quote me on that. But I want to just compare that to the plywood I used to always use, which is right here. Which is also not terrible. This was about $50 a sheet at Menards, and this is both for 3/4 thickness. So if you look at the new stuff, like look at how consistent in thickness all those plies are. And then the other thing that's really nice is there's an actual layer for the top and bottom instead of just being like a really thin veneer of birch. That's actually a nice thick, probably a 32nd inch layer of birch. Here's compared to the other stuff here. You can see almost paper thin layer of birch on top of there. And that will burn through super duper fast when you're sanding. The other thing that you'll notice is the layers are not necessarily very consistent thickness. There's layers that kind of come in and out, and you can see a bunch of that there. And then the other thing you see is there's little voids here and there. Not terrible, not as bad as some of the cheaper like construction grade plywoods, but you definitely still see a few of these voids. And if they're in these top layers near the surface when you're doing like rabbets and stuff like that, it'll blow right through there. So it's pretty easy to see. There's no voids here. All the layers, very consistent thickness. So far, I am super duper impressed with this. I would definitely order it again. I'm sure it's some kind of import. I'm sure it's not legitimate Baltic birch, probably from China. I didn't really look into that, but Baltic birch is kind of hard to find around here, so it's a really good option. You can order it online, pick it up in the store, and it's really nice. Very impressed. Ooh, so that is it, you guys. Check this out. I am so pumped about how this turned out. Okay, there it is. The shelf is in place. I'm pretty sure I skipped about 15 steps in the process there, but it is in. It's doing exactly what I wanted. I already got my stereo installed in there. Put a few other things in there just to make it look good. The lights really make it look nice. You'll see that in a second. Let me show you some other details here real quick. All right, so I actually put just like one coat of poly on this just to kind of protect it a little bit. It really makes the grain and the layers on the plywood really pop. I think it looks really good like that. A quick comment on the quality of the plywood. I mean, overall it's really good. There's just a few spots that kind of like the surface isn't great. So I think if you're using this for projects, you probably want to try and make that be like on the inside. There's just like little parts where it's torn out or something. So keep that in mind if you buy this. Probably not quite as nice as like the expensive Baltic birch, but it is pretty nice and I really enjoyed working with it and I think it turned out really great. So I'm not complaining at all, but there are some surfaces that are maybe less than ideal if you're using that for some fancy furniture or something. That is going to do it for this time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the woodworking content. I've got all kinds of other stuff going on out here. I got this whole room to fill yet, so we're going to be working on that and some projects inside as well. Eventually we'll be getting back to our Triumph, but for now, enjoy the show. I'm going to get out there and enjoy some of this fantastic weather that you can just barely see out there. So anyway, if you like what you saw, drop a comment down below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.